And a pleasant good evening to you and yours, and welcome back here on the Brevard Sports Network. I know, it's been an active live evening for you in terms of getting dings. Ding, BSN is live. Ding, BSN is live. Ding, we're live again. But it was worth it, wasn't it? The Larry Bluestein interview was unbelievable. Just the sheer fact that Larry is able to do interviews. Look, it was a dire situation with Larry Bluestein for a while, and here he is out back running around camps. And, of course, the interview with Hunter Turner and Cody Black. Those guys were just terrific. But welcome to Brevard Sports Network, BSN Sports Talk. I am Alan Slaughter-Zinski, and I am joined by the macabre to my left over here. They are, the man to your left is Mr. Jackson Robb. The man to your right is Caleb Brown. Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome. Jackson, you were on yet another excursion for the 4th of July weekend. Where did you go?
I headed down south, or not that far south, with family to Sebastian.
Okay.
So right on the outskirts, or right outside of Brevard County. So didn't go far, but had some fun boating and hanging out with family.
You had a good time?
Yep.
That's good. Caleb, what'd you do for the 4th of July? Work, right?
I slept during majority of the fireworks, which actually that was pretty soothing to sleep to, and then got up and worked.
Yeah, and the fireworks in my neighborhood weren't that bad. They didn't go till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning like I think maybe they did elsewhere around town. But, guys, I got to tell everybody, tonight's show is brought to you by a bevy of sponsors, including Best Private Investigations. Here's hoping you never have to use them, but should you need them, 321-508-4492. Also brought to you tonight by Beachway Volleyball Club. Coach and club director Michelle Rycroft does a terrific job tomorrow morning. The finals of her beach volleyball tournament. Myself, Jackson, and Caleb will all be on hand to broadcast that for you as well. Connect Sports Consulting. If you've got a student athlete who has not yet connected in terms of being recruited, get in touch with Connect Sports Consulting. They do an outstanding job. They get great rates with the National Collegiate Association that does all the recruiting stuff for your child. So get in touch with Connect Sports Consulting. Tonight is also brought to you by Uberzati. You know all about Uberzati. I tell you about them all the time. The information is there on the screen, 518-641-8797. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty as student-athletes are over there running those treadmills, getting ready for camps that are coming up at the end of the month. And tonight's show is also brought to you by Walk-Ons, where starting Wednesday night, right here on Brevard Sports Network, and for the next 2 Wednesday nights thereafter, you will see the coaches shows. I've been doing these coaches shows for 3 straight years now, sort of on my own. In all, I've been doing these coaches shows for about 6, 7 years now. They're a lot of fun, and myself, I'll be flying solo Wednesday night, but Billy Palmer will be joining me on the following 2 Wednesdays. Jackson, you're headed where this weekend?
I'm heading up north to Illinois, just outside of Chicago, to see more family, and then we might go to North Carolina after that. I don't know, but for sure I'll be up in Illinois for a little bit, but I'll still pop in every once in a while or whenever I can.
Yeah, no doubt. And speaking of Illinois, I want to give our thoughts and prayers, of course, to the horrific tragedy shooting that occurred there on Monday during the 4th of July parade. I always say sports is a great healer, but it becomes tougher and tougher to heal when these incidences continue to happen and happen. So there's my political statement for the night. All right, guys, local sports. We always start with local sports. And coming up, boy, we sure did have a good time at the Jawan Taylor camp last Saturday. And coming up on the 16th of July, and the information is there on the screen, some of the greats that have ever played high school football, they're now playing professional football. Guys like, Jay Sean Corbin, Jamel Dean, C.J. Gardner, Javion Hawkins. There's Ty Schwab, And, of course, this is all put on by A1 Fitness. Those guys do an absolutely terrific job. Of course, James Folston Jr. will be there as well. We had the opportunity to attend their youth football camp that they did last year, I think it was at this time, for the Suntree Vieira Youth Football. And that was an outstanding evening. And I cannot imagine that this won't be just as good, if not better. Again, there you see Jamel and CJ and Javion and Ty and J-Fo Jr. and Jay Sean Corbin on there. And they'll all be there that day. And again, the information is on the screen for that. You can go to the A1 Fitness Facebook page. It's free. You're going to need to have the barcoder thing where you can take a picture of the barcoder and do that. So that's the big local camp that's coming up. And I tell you what, I'm excited about that camp. I really am, and to get down there and cover that. All right, also some big local news. Surfing. Jackson, you live over in Satellite Beach, and the surfing world has yet another champ. I'll replay the video. I'll get the graphic off of there. That is Fiona Sargente on your screen. And Fiona went out to California, and she captured the Women's USA Surfing Longboard Championships. She has been competing since the age of 12. She did this. She's an Eastern Florida State College student, a Palm Bay resident. She won the 18 to 39 division on the waves of Southern California. The event is a qualifier for the ISA. That's the International Surfing Association World Longboard Championship and the Pan Am Games, by the way. So congratulations to Fiona Sargente, and I want to say thank you to Susie DeWerf as well. Fiona is actually a triplet. She's got two brothers. She's one of 6 children. Of course, you know, when you can surf like she can, she grew up on the beach. Longboarding, one of those events that allows surfers to be creative, and you know, we're going to try to get an interview with her. In fact, I'd love to get her in studio to talk to her. So congratulations to Fiona Sargente. Jackson, living over there so close to the waves, did you ever think about taking up surfing?
Definitely crosses your mind when you live over there. Honestly, I haven't learned how to surf yet, I got to be honest, but definitely something I would like to do sometime soon.
Well, you do a pretty good job broadcasting.
Yeah,
so
that works.
There's only so many things you can be great at in life. So
soon to be great lacrosse player, he will be.
Right. Soon to be a great lacrosse player, no doubt about that. Anything going on in the world of lacrosse, speaking of?
Right now, not that I know of. I think it's just kind of that height of the off season where you're almost getting back into it. I know a few players, I think, went up to a showcase more on a national level a few weeks ago, but I was not really a part of that. But besides that, yeah, really, it's just that off season. You got to keep training, got to keep your stick in your hand. But besides that, once school starts, it'll be back practice with high school. So it's getting closer and closer to that time.
Since last week, the West Melbourne Little League 8, 9, 10 won a sectional championship. They're going to be moving on to states. Merritt Island 10, 11, 12 softball won their Section 3 championship. They're going to be heading to a state tournament. Congratulations to the ladies. Bit of a recruiting note, if you will. Braden Bell, you know Braden Jackson, basketball standout, is also a baseball standout as well. Batted .286 for the Scorps this year. He is going to be taking his talents about 2.5 hours southwest to Weber International. So congratulations to Braden Bell. And the Merritt Island 10, 11, 12 All-Stars. Believe we got to that last week. So, yes, that's where we left off last week with local sports. There is one other local sports story, guys. One other local sports story of note. And it's on the screen right now. And, Jackson, I got to tell you, this will be interesting to you because in the post I put Scorpions save or something about fighting a possum. Anyway, there was a couple in Satellite Beach who had two small dogs. And I apologize. I had the information, or the lady's name here. But anyway, she lets out a blood-curdling scream. Now, with everything that's going on in the world today, when you hear a blood-curdling scream, it could be thousands of things, right? And as we saw on Monday, not all of them are good, okay? But to make a long story short, 4 members of the satellite football team ran barefoot to the lady's blood-curdling scream, and she has 2 small dogs that were cornered under a shed by a possum. And these young men helped this couple rescue their dogs and get their dogs out, which I thought was awesome. And I think what needs to be talked about is the fact that they ran towards the screams. They didn't run towards the screams with phones in their hands. They just ran to help, which, you know what, I think is a testament to their character, the type of young men. Their parents ought to be proud. And, of course, they're all members of the Satellite Scorpion football team. So good job, guys. Always worth pointing out Good Samaritan activity, and that certainly is Good Samaritan activity. All right, guys. So that's the local sports. And, again, just to recap, the big camp coming up July 16th, and then the coaches' shows start next week. And if you want to know about the high school football coaches in Brevard County, you can jump on Brevard Sports Network Facebook page. We are doing a high school football. We're going to do one for volleyball. Not quite as long, but we're going to do one for high school volleyball as well. But you can jump on Brevard Sports Network's Facebook page, and we have up all 18 head coaches in the county, little bios about them, what leagues they're playing in this year, where they are, what their records were last year. And you might say, well, Alan, there's only 16 schools playing football, right? No, there's 18. There's Merritt Island Christian, who's playing 8-man. And welcome to the Shuffle, Calvary Chapel. Mm-hmm. Calvary Chapel is going to be playing. Terrence Carroll, the head coach there, playing. And Brevard Sports Network is excited because what did we do this week, Caleb? We inked a deal to do what this year?
We inked a deal to broadcast several sports from Calvary Christian.
That's right, Calvary Chapel.
Calvary Chapel.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing that. So we're very excited about that. So you'll meet all of these coaches coming up, and if you, like I said, if you want a little expose on them, it's up on BSN. All right, guys. We obviously have to get to the big story of the day, and that is finally Baker Mayfield was traded today. And, you know, I when you look at this trade, what was given up for him? Nothing. I mean, really, nothing at all was given up for a 5th-round draft pick, conditional draft pick, that has the possibility to turn into a 3rd-round draft pick. You're a Carolina Panther fan, Jackson. What did you think of this deal today?
You know, for the first time in a while, I was actually happy with my team, and something that I thought that we did right. It's very mixed. The community, the Panthers community, it seems like it's a split.
Why is it split? What are they saying that makes it split?
It's just mostly that we've been desperate for a quarterback in the last few years. None of them have worked. So the big consensus just tends to be just to ride it out with Darnold and then move on with a new prospect. But I just think that's not it's an upgrade, right? Sam Darnold was slated on a lot of people's lists to be the worst starter in the league, and I can't, really give him too much credit elsewhere. So for me, especially giving up pretty much nothing for an upgrade at quarterback, and Baker Mayfield is a quarterback that had one off year, but he was number 1 overall pick, led a terrible Browns team back to the playoffs, and albeit he may not be a top-tier quarterback in the league right now, but he's shown his potential, and honestly, it's an upgrade for the Panthers, and not having to. They only had to pay $5 million of his salary, which was my biggest key. If we overpaid for him, that's the bad move. I didn't care really how much else. It was mostly paying because the Panthers have been paying Teddy Bridgewater, Sam Darnold, Cam Newton. We've paid plenty of quarterbacks these last few years a ridiculous amount of money. So for Baker, it was just not overpaying, and if you can get that deal done for as little as possible, it's a good move to me.
In the end, Mayfield's going to take $3.5 million pay cut to execute this deal. Cleveland's going to pay $10.5 million of his base salary this year, and as you said, Jackson, Carolina will take on $5 million of it. According to Pro Football Focus, as you look at some of the plays that have Carolina Panther fans excited that Baker Mayfield's coming to town. 2018, he had a PFF grade of 83. That was 11th out of 39 grades for the quarterback position that particular year. And 2019 dropped to a 74. That was 17th. In 2020, as you alluded to, Jackson, he was 8th out of 38 grades they doled out. And, of course, last year he was 29 out of 38 with a 63.6 Pro Football Focus grade. Caleb, what's your take and thoughts on the Baker Mayfield trade?
I think it's a win-win for the Panthers because, again, you gave up a conditional 5th round that at most has a possibility of being a 3rd-round pick. Because guess what? If he comes in and becomes a starter and becomes a great quarterback for the Carolina Panthers, it's a win-win because of what you gave up.
You gave up nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
I was talking to Jackson. You gave up maybe a ham sandwich and maybe a half a bag of chips in splitting the financials. And if he comes in and ends up being another Carolina quarterback that rides the bench or periodically starts, then again, you gave up nothing for it.
Baker Mayfield is on a mission. The 2017 Heisman Trophy winner is a lot better than people give him credit for, okay? In his career, 61.6% completion percentage, okay? 14,125 yards, 92 touchdowns, 56 interceptions. Keep those stats in mind. Only Rodgers, Wilson, Mahomes, Brady, Stafford have recorded more big-time throws than Baker Mayfield has since 2018. You got Sam Darnold, Matt Corral, Phillip Walker on the roster. Not impressive by any stretch of the imagination. Darnold goes from the Jets to the Panthers. He's had his opportunity to shine. He's not done it. He didn't do it last year. Obviously, Mayfield requested the trade out of Cleveland in March after the team brings Watson in and, gives him the big, whatever it is, out the door. But I will say this. This situation got so dire in Cleveland that did you both ever see the movie Moneyball?
Yes.
All right. Moneyball talks about how the Oakland A's were built under Billy Beane and how he did it. There's a scene in the movie when he's talking to David Justice at the batting cages, and Justice isn't coming around to the A's way, so to speak. And Beane is having a conversation with him, and he says, David, I want to leave you with this. He says, the New York Yankees are paying you not to play for them. So that's the attitude, I promise you, that Baker, the Cleveland Browns, $10.5 million of this salary. But it had to happen for the deal. I like the trade for the Panthers. I think he goes from the 3rd best quarterback in the AFC North to the 3rd best quarterback in the AFC South. I'm sorry, but I just think he's the 3rd best quarterback, or in the NFC South, I should say, still. But you know what? I think he gives you Panther fans a little bit more to be happier about as we get to the end of the month in training camp.
And I got to say one more thing. Look out week 1. The Browns head to Carolina for the first game of the season. So that one will be fun.
For some reason, I feel like that's going to be a rearranged, slotted prime time
Well, it
game.
can't be because, and the reason it can't be is because those games can only take place after week 6. You can't change the start times until you at least get to week 6, and then you can only move them from 1 to 4. And it's a whole thing. You have to look it up.
Darn it.
Yeah, no doubt.
That feels like something like an NBC or an ESPN.
Should be, right?
Right.
No,
because
you're exactly
just
right.
the amount of storylines that are in that game.
So here's the interesting part of this story. Let's circle back to the Cleveland Browns. for a minute, if you will, because to me, this is just further proof, and I feel bad for any of my friends that are Cleveland Browns fans. This trade today brings us to the stat of the week here on Brevard Sports Network. It is brought to you by Best Private Investigations, because this stat takes a private investigator to be able to name all of these guys. Stat of the week brought to you by Best Private Investigations. Give them a call at 321-508-4492. Gregory Buttrick and his staff do an absolutely amazing job. Over the past 22 seasons, the Browns have had 31 different starting quarterbacks. During those 22 years, the team started multiple different quarterbacks in each year except for 2001, 2019, and 2020. Some of those quarterbacks that, on your screen is the first ever Cleveland's Brown quarterback, and on your screen is the last guy to take a snap for the Cleveland Browns, Nick Mullins, who played for Baker last year, who was hurt. We didn't even talk about that, how Baker played hurt for Cleveland last year. But the Cleveland Browns have had Tim Couch. In fact, the current head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Doug Peterson, he had 8 starts as a Cleveland Brown quarterback. Former BYU Ty Detmer, Spurgeon Wynn, Kelly Holcomb, Jeff Garcia, Luke McCown, Derek Anderson, Charlie Fry, Trent Dilfer, Brady Quinn, Ken Dorsey, Bruce Gradkowski, Colt McCoy, Jake Delhomme, there's a former Panther, Seneca Wallace, Brandon Whedon, Thad Lewis, Jason Campbell, Brian Hoyer, Johnny Football Manziel, Josh McCown, Austin Davis, Connor Shaw, Cody Kessler, Robert Griffin III, Deshaun Kaiser, Kevin Hogan, Baker Mayfield, and Nick Mullins. There you go. Your BSN stat of the week. You guys got anything you want to add to the Baker Mayfield before we get on to college football realignment? Because this is going to be a long conversation we're about to have.
The Browns just doing Browns things.
That's exactly right. And coming up a little bit later after the conversation about college football, the way the show will go tonight is we will talk about college football realignment. And what you're going to get from us tonight here on Brevard Sports Network is you're going to get a history lesson. And you're going to see how, if college football realignment and all the crazy stuff going on right now surprises you, and you haven't really been paying attention to the history of college football. Because I want you to keep in mind, gentlemen, 2 things run hand in hand when we talk college football expansion. College football expansion, television contracts. They all run hand in hand. I want to read you guys something here. From the core philosophy, there have emerged, and this is about college football being a business, driving the business of college football. Let me read you something, okay? From this core philosophy, there have emerged 2 undeniable truths which have driven the business of college football. The first, there is a finite number of television dollars out there, and like it or not, the majority of them will go to those conferences that can deliver the largest number of viewers on any given Saturday. So, when your competition for those dollars, i.e., another conference, expands to strengthen those numbers, you stand pat in your own peril. That's 1. 2, conferences expand not only to improve their television number, but also to increase their power base. Power also has a big thing to do with this. That power can be used to impact NCAA legislation pertaining not only to football, but to other sports, hence NIL, transfer portals, okay? But it's the athletic equivalent of the Cold War, as conferences feel they must continually build up their arsenals to assure their survival. You agree or disagree with that?
I agree. That That all definitely tracks for how college football is working right now.
This was written in 1995. What I just read you is from an article in 1995. So the more things change, the more they simply stay the same. So if you know college football and conference realignment, then you know. And we talked about this before the show. I don't care what makes sense. I don't care geographically if USC and UCLA are going to go. I don't care because that doesn't matter. What matters is the Los Angeles television market. That's what matters.
Yes.
Okay? And if you, Jackson, seem to think that one school in particular is not going to have any of this, give me your thoughts on that. Because Notre Dame is starting to become a big part of the conversation because obviously, will they stay independent or won't they stay independent? That's going to be the big question. What say you?
You know, I think Notre Dame's going to hold out as long as they can. Notre Dame's a team. They're in the ACC for every sport but football, and for a while that reason is because of said money. And for them, all their deals that they could lose with NBC and whatever by just simply joining a conference. So, honestly, I feel like they're the one team that would try their hardest to avoid this. But as you just kind of sit back and look, is it possible to avoid it? Probably not. But I do think Notre Dame's the one team that is the most interesting in this situation because they just have a very interesting situation where they're independent in football, in a conference everywhere else, yet they aim to stay independent for as long as they can, but I don't know if they physically can for any longer.
I don't think. Okay. There's a history lesson in this as well. And that history lesson is this. Very similarly, in the early 1980s, well, let me take you back, because I told everybody I was going to give you a history lesson tonight about what's going on in college football. Because, well, you know the old expression, and I'm sure I'll screw it up. If you don't learn lessons from the past, you're obviously doomed to repeat them in the future. Something along those lines, right?
You got it correct.
Well, did I actually get that right?
Yes, you did, Alan.
In the early 1980s, Oklahoma and Georgia partnered in a lawsuit challenging the NCAA's monopoly on college football TV contract negotiations because from 1955 or 53, when television started, up until that point, only the NCAA could negotiate television contracts. The suit reached all the way to the Supreme Court. They ruled 7-2 against the NCAA, which obviously opened the door for these conferences to run roughshod with television contracts and deals. Now, it took some time, and it obviously took some time before they started to figure this out. In other words, they knew that, well, if we put these teams in this conference and those teams in this conference, our money becomes that much more. And I'll get to that in just a second. The thing that changed the spectrum of college television negotiations and what really started to elevate conference realignment was when Penn State went to the Big Ten. That's when everybody said, okay, because Penn State was always that big independent school. And when they did that, that was the first domino. And I think this happened back in like 80, sometime in the 80s. That's when the first domino fell. And then you had you had Florida State joining the ACC. All of this started to happen. But if you look at the dates of the television contracts, and I know I'm talking slow like you guys are kindergartners, but I want to try and tie all this together. We told you in 1980, Notre Dame signs a 5-year, $30 million television contract with NBC, becoming college football's first real big defector. In other words, they went and did their own thing, okay? Then you had February of 94, the SEC announced that it would leave college football. They signed a deal worth $17 million per season, okay? 2000, and then things, you steadily had expansion throughout the 90s. But the big expansion numbers always were within a year or two of the big television contracts. They always were. I said this on the Mark Moses show the other day. What college football is going to look like in 10 years isn't sitting in the desk of a conference commissioner, because they have no idea. That blueprint for what college football is going to look like in 10 years is sitting in the desk of a television executive at ESPN or Fox or CBS. That's where that is. Now, I read an article in The Athletic that said that ESPN and Fox do not directly tell these conferences which teams they need. But what they do is they insinuate, they'll say, hey, if you can get, think about a world where Texas and Oklahoma are in the SEC. Think about a world where Alabama and Oklahoma. Do you know how much revenue we could generate by having Oklahoma and Alabama play every year? Now, I know it's likely that Alabama's going to jump, to the east with Texas and Oklahoma in the west, but I'm just giving you a hypothetical as to how these television executives approach this. The money is ridiculous. Now, I will give kudos to the ACC for one thing, and that's this grant of rights deal that they have, because they really have these schools in a bind. Right now, and I'm going to go over the big ones. In 2019, the ACC signed a 12-year, $1 billion deal with ESPN that started in the fall of 2020, and it runs through the 2031-32 academic year. $83.3 million a year. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the AAC. I'm reading the wrong one. The ACC 20-year top-tier deal that runs through 2036. It pays about $240 million annually for the ACC. The 14 schools get about $17 million per season. Remember that number, $17 million. Okay, but you get down to the SEC, right? Let's just jump right to the SEC. ESPN is obviously going to be the exclusive home of the SEC football and men's basketball starting in 2024. The 10-year contract is going to be worth $300 million annually. It's going to have to be renegotiated now because of Texas and Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. But each school is going to receive, it's estimated, between $40 to $47 million. Now, if you're Florida State, if you're Miami, and if you're Clemson, and you're looking at this, and you're getting $17 million a year, and you're playing for college football national championships like Clemson is, you start thinking in a couple of years, you know what? I can bring $40 million. The Big Ten's going to be $50 million per school. $50 million a school. So when you look at $17 million, but let's get back to the grant of rights thing. Because none of those teams can leave the ACC. They can leave. But let's say Florida State says in 5 years, I'm leaving. I'm going to the SEC. ACC will say, that's fine. But until this current television contract expires, every dollar you make on television comes back to the Atlantic Coast Conference. That's the grant of rights deal they have. Now, everything's for sale. Everything's negotiable. So these schools that are going to want to get out of the ACC, and they're going to want to get out. The ACC is a dead conference walking. I don't care what you can't convince me that the ACC is not a dead conference walking. Not because of quality of play. I read an article today that said, wouldn't Duke in North Carolina look great in the Big Ten for basketball purposes? Think about that. So it theoretically would cost a school like Clemson or Florida State probably about $200 million to get out of this thing, to pay. Now, it could get ugly, and I think it will get ugly at some point. Clemson, Florida State, Miami, those three schools could all band together and file a lawsuit and fight the ACC in court. Who knows? But the bottom line is, guys, conference realignment, every time you hear the words television contract money's up, the next thing you're going to inevitably hear is realignment. Every time, without. So for people saying that, this conference, this has been happening since the beginning of college football and television. It's going to always happen. There should be 3 big power conferences. You're never going to have that. You're never going to have that. That's my thoughts. I hope I was able to shed a little light on this. Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. That was all very true and very important to consider.
What are your thoughts on a UCLA and a U? Because this is not only this is confusing. Okay, it's very confusing. And if we're confused, think about the person that's just an average fan, right? They're upset. All they know is, you know what? My USC Trojans is going to have to go play Michigan in November in the snow. I've never seen snow. So what are your thoughts on this? I mean, when you see that, today, you get. I just had the graphic up. I'll put it back up again. The Big 12, and that's the conference everybody thought was going to be left for dead, right? Because Texas and Oklahoma are leaving. Well, the Big 12 is reportedly in discussions to add up to 6 Pac-12 teams. Mm-hmm. Arizona State, Utah, Colorado, Oregon, and Washington on top of UCF and the other schools. I thought the Big 12 was dead in the water last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, first take the USC and UCLA. That's all money. That's all that is for both sides. For the USC's and UCLA's in the Big Ten. Problem is for those 2 schools is now you got to travel. Those travel times aren't going to help you going to play these teams every year. So that'll be interesting to look at that perspective because you got long flights. No matter if it's private or whatever. You're still flying from California to the north every week. And then for the Big 12, it's a fantastic move if you're going to. I agree. I thought they were done last year. They're chasing these group of 5 teams just to fill the conference, and now you're going out. All respectable programs, Arizona State, Oregon, Colorado, Utah, Washington, have all been competing in that conference for a while. So if you could add that in, but then it's the Pac-12's turn to rebound. So it is. I don't think realignment's going to end for a while. This cycle is still right in the thick of it. And I thought Oklahoma, and Texas last year. That was the peak of it, but there's still much more to come. And honestly, it's too unpredictable to really make any predictions out of it.
I thought it was crazy when I read the article, but then
first of all, you are. But no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Actually, very true. But then I thought about you mentioned the SEC deal that was inked. You said back in 2014.
Yep. No. Just a couple of years ago, they just did that 2019.
Okay, so maybe not that deal, but the previous deal where the SEC added Missouri, and how shocked people were then to add Missouri to the SEC. Yeah,
well, not just Missouri,
and Texas A&M.
Texas A&M.
Those 2 coming to the SEC. So
there's a proposal out there. I've been putting it up on the screen. All right, this proposal. It's not a proposal. It's a guy that took some time, and I found it just fascinating. He's got this whole division realignment plan, where, as he says, 80 schools, 16 per conference. Only these schools are eligible and it has to be an 8-team college football playoff. That's level A. 80 schools, 16 per conference. Level B is 80 schools, 16 per conference. They're not eligible for the 8-team playoff. The top 2 teams per conference are eligible to play in a challenge game for the right to move into the top tier. So you can be relegated, like soccer, like we're playing like soccer. Okay? Yeah. 11-game regular season, 7 division games, 2 cross-division conference games, 2 non-conference games, and a requirement to play against level A teams. It's going to be drastic if we go to something like this, but there's on the screen people are looking at what a realignment would look in the Big Ten, now the Big 12. I mean, that's what this guy's talking about. Yeah, it's crazy to think, right? But you would think it was crazy for UCLA and USC to play in the Big Ten?
I actually kind of like that system. I kind of like the whole where you're challenging the B-level schools to play up into A-level. I think it puts a lot more emphasis on recruiting if there wasn't already a big enough emphasis. I think that could actually be very entertaining to watch.
Yeah. What do you think college football looks like in 10 years, Jackson?
Honestly, I don't think there will be a straight Power 5. I definitely think it's all going to – the way it's like the SEC and the Big Ten kind of runs how this realignment's going, the power dynamic is going to be different. That's what I know for sure. Anything geographical is out the window. So I have no idea what the conferences will look like. I just know the power dynamic. It won't be a semi-balanced Power 5. It will be, 2, 3, maybe a shy 4 actually running college football, and then a mix down at the rest of the levels. So, again, with the way this is trending, there will be a few conferences that benefit the most, and the rest are just going to have to, fill the holes however they can.
The Big Ten, we were talking about Penn State earlier, right? December 1989. The Big Ten for so long was the big boy on the block when it came to television. Penn State was second to only Notre Dame in terms of, what the exposure they got. Joe Paterno and the numerous Notre Dame coaches at the time. Penn State, 6 months later, in 19, they made it official. They added Penn State as the 11th member. And then suddenly what happened overnight was the Big Ten not only had the large Midwestern television markets of Chicago, Detroit, and Cleveland. Remember I said this is about TV markets, right? But it could also now deliver Eastern markets like Pittsburgh and Philadelphia by adding them. That was really the first domino to fall. The second one really came when the SEC started to expand. 92, they added South Carolina and Arkansas to really just kind of choke the South a little bit, if you will. That same year, the ACC adds Florida State. And Florida State, there was a lot of traditionalists in the ACC at the time. They did not want Florida State in the conference. They did not want them. And then again, Southwest Conference, which formed in 1914, had to face reality when all this started happening. They had 8 schools all in the same state, and all of a sudden, their members, Texas, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, Baylor, joined the Big 8 to form the Big 12. So there is an example of a conference that just went away. So we're going to see that again. And it's whether it's the Pac-12, whether it's the ACC. And the funny part about this, guys, is the Pac-12's television deal is worth more than the ACC's, I believe. At least per school it is. A little bit more. But I think the Big 12's like $21 million per year. It's just, it's wild. Absolutely wild. The Big 12, the league is in the midst of a 13-year deal with ESPN and Fox that ends in 2025. The networks don't want to renegotiate with them early. But right now, it's $20 million per school in the Big 12. $20 million per school. Notre Dame right now gets $15 million annually from NBC. And then the college football playoff, ESPN paid $470 million annually in a deal that runs through 2025, 2026. The figures from that, each Power 5 league receives a baseline of $67 million additional dollars every year. Money, TV, realignment. Money, say it with me. Money, TV, realignment. All right.
And the church said amen.
And the church said amen, right? All right, guys. I need a drink of water, so we'll step aside. We'll be back and talk a little. Let's talk a little NFL football, shall we? I know you guys don't mind. AFC East.
Hello, Space Coast. Alan Slaughter-Zinski for the Brevard Sports Network. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank all of you for your support of BSN and allowing us to cover your student athletes and come into your home each and every night. Give us a follow on Facebook at Brevard Sports Network, and here's to many more years of top-notch sports coverage right here in Brevard County. Thanks again.
All right, welcome back here to Brevard Sports Network. Accidentally cut the Uberzati commercial early, but that's the way it goes. Jackson, Rob, Alan, Slaughter-Zinski, Caleb will be back with us a little bit later on. It's time now, Jackson, for to kick off our NFL coverage, and we start with the AFC East tonight. And I start with the AFC East because as I look at the rest of the National Football League, you could argue the AFC North is between two teams. You could argue the AFC South may even be between two teams. The AFC West is, as good as it gets. The NFC East, nobody ever knows who's winning that division. Pretty much Green Bay in the NFC North. The NFC South, that'll be Tampa Bay. The NFC West, that's going to be tough too. No guarantees on the Rams. But when I look at a division that I think that one team is solely in charge of, no other division strikes me as the AFC East and the Buffalo Bills. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Buffalo Bills, I'll put it out now, that's my Super Bowl prediction right now.
What do you mean, win or in?
Win.
Okay.
Win. So I definitely think the Bills have a great season ahead of them, in my opinion. And it definitely starts with running that division. Ever since Brady left New England, it's Buffalo's division to lose. And, honestly, they just keep improving. And, yeah, they definitely right now are running the AFC East. I have them dominating the AFC East, and their record just overall, the rest of the division just doesn't
stack up.
No, doesn't even.
I really like, first of all, the only big-time change with this team was at the offensive coordinator position because Dayball is now in New York, and Ken Dorsey becomes, former Miami Hurricane quarterback Ken Dorsey is now the offensive coordinator. But Dorsey's got a big-time familiarity with Josh Allen because he's been his position coach for the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. So I think this is going to help Josh Allen. I'm going to put a bold, hot take statement out there right now. Josh Allen will, to me, I think he's got elite talent. You look at their depth chart, Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, Jamison Crowder. I love their offensive line, tight end Dawson Knox, Devin Singletary in the backfield. I'm not thrilled at what happened last year in the playoffs because, with the defense, but okay, it is what it is. But in terms of where they ranked last year offensively, 408 yards a game, that was fifth in the NFL. Scoring 28 points a game, third in the NFL. They were third in the NFL in third down efficiency. Defensively, they were the top defense in the league last year. They were number one. Again, I'm not thrilled with what happened in the playoff game, but this is a great defense. They were not, so the complete meltdown in the playoffs was mind-numbing to me because they had the number one passing defense in the National Football League last year, 14th against the run. They turned you over. They had a +8 turnover differential last year. I think Josh Allen's going to be the best quarterback in the National Football League this year. 4,007 passing yards last year, 36 touchdowns. I think he's got to cut down on his interceptions a little bit. He had 15 interceptions last year. Not a lot, but to be upper echelon elite, you got to be single digits.
Yeah.
Okay? But I think Josh Allen, Singletary last year, 870 yards. Josh Allen, 763 rushing yards. I think that's got to come down a little bit. I do. I know that's part of his game, but, there's just something to me about a quarterback running as much as he does. And then, Stephon Diggs, 1,225 yards, 693 for Cole Beasley. They had four guys over 500 receiving yards last year. This is elite talent. This is a Super Bowl team.
Yeah.
I like the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, so do I. I also have Josh Allen as my MVP pick right now. I really like the Buffalo Bills and what they're doing. And, yeah, that heartbreaking loss in the playoff, but that fuels the team. They play the Chiefs in Week 6, I believe. And overall, it's the Bills. This is the Bills season. If they want to finally get that Super Bowl that they've been chasing for a while.
Forever?
Yeah, you got to put it together now. And because it's one of those things when you have a really solid roster, when it's that good and when it looks that solid, you have to make it work when you have it.
Some numbers to know. 26.1. Buffalo's defense allowed just 26.1 yards per drive last year. That's the lowest in the National Football League. 36. Bills receivers dropped 36 balls in 2021. That was the second highest number in the NFL. So they got to get a grip on that. And two, the Bills were the second healthiest team in the NFL last year in terms of injuries and games lost. That's going to change. Rarely do you stay at the top of a statistical category like that. So the overcoming for injuries, but I like the Bills. My prediction on Buffalo, I think I had them at 12 wins. I can't find 5 losses, but
I have them at 13-4.
Yeah.
Most of those losses come after really when they would be locked into the playoffs.
Yeah, no doubt. You look at their schedule this year. They open at Rams on a Thursday night. It's going to be a great game. Tennessee, at Miami, at Baltimore, Pittsburgh. You're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. This is a tough schedule. There's no doubt about it.
But that's for those 13 wins that I have being that impressive.
If I'm looking at any potential losses here, the Rams, Tennessee, at Miami, at Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and at Kansas City. You look at that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 through 6. I think they're 5-1.
Yeah, agreed.
They host Green Bay, at the Jets, Minnesota, Cleveland, at Detroit, at New England, the Jets, Miami. Then at Cincinnati on a Monday night, 15-2. You're hard pressed to find more than 2 losses in that schedule. You're going to know what the Buffalo Bills are when they hit their bye week after they play at Kansas. You're going to know what they are.
Yep, for sure.
All right, who you got next, my man?
I have the Miami Dolphins. I do think with all their moves in the offseason and what have you, I think the Dolphins slide up into second. Not with a shockingly good record. I have them at 10-7. But I do think they just have a lot of close game potential in their schedule where it could flip back and forth. They could really skyrocket up in wins. Their ceiling is decently high, but at the same time, that floor is also decently low if they don't meet those expectations. We talked on one of the earlier shows about their offseason and how that'll set them up, and I definitely think that they have potential. They have a lot of close game potential. Their schedule's not too hard, not too easy. It's just that end stretch. They got to finish strong, and 10-7 puts them right on that playoff bubble. Hopefully, in their sake, they can push themselves over.
The offensive line was horrific last year. So I don't think it's all that together fair to say that the lack of development for Tua Tagovailoa is on him and him alone. The key to the Miami Dolphins this year is Robert Hunt, Liam Eichenberg, Michael Dieter, Connor Williams, and Terran Armstead. Greg Little, Solomon Kinley, Connor Williams, Robert Jones, Austin Jackson. That's their offensive line going into camp. Mm-hmm. That is the key to the Miami Dolphins this year. Can they protect? Can they open up holes for the run game? Last year, the Miami Dolphins offense was horrific. They were 25th in the National Football League, 30th running the ball, 17th passing it. They had the 22nd best scoring offense. Defensively, they were strictly middle of the pack last year. There was a reason they started 1-7 or whatever it was they started, but they got it together. Mm-hmm. You know, they won those games. They showed resiliency. I don't think, look, Terry Armstead they get from New Orleans to play the tackle position. They get some good key pickups this year as you see their schedule on the stream. Chase Edmonds, good, decent running back out of Arizona. The big one, Tyreek Hill out of Kansas City.
Yeah, for sure.
The issue is going to be, can Tua Tagovailoa get the ball 55, 60 yards down the field to him? Mm-hmm. Sony Michel, another running back they bring in. And then they also get Connor Williams from Dallas guard off of what was a really good Dallas Cowboy offensive line. And they get in Cedric Wilson Jr. from the Dallas Cowboys as well. So what do you think? Their 5-year win trend, 6-6-5, 10-9. The problem with the Dolphins is, they haven't, I think they've been to the playoffs one time. One stinking time in the last 15 years. Is this a playoff team? Isn't it a playoff team? Can Tua Tagovailoa get this done this year?
The AFC is so tough. I have them definitely on the bubble at 10-7. I just don't know if it'll be enough. It's just they got to meet those expectations, and they might be high, but 10-7 where I have them sitting is where they got to meet for sure. If they want to make the playoffs, you got to start there. However they go up or down, that's up to Tua, that offensive line, the run game, whatever. It's up to them. They got to make it happen. And is there a possibility? Is it possible for them to make the playoffs? For sure. Will it happen? That's just one of those things you have to wait and see, I guess.
I've got your and mine predictions on the screen. I got them at 10-7 too. But as I look at their schedule this year, New England at Baltimore, that's a loss. Buffalo, that's a loss. At Cincinnati, I would say on the surface that's a loss. At the Jets, a win. Minnesota, Pittsburgh, home. Wins. I'll give them wins there. At Detroit, at Chicago, I'll give them wins there. Cleveland, home. I don't think Deshaun Watson's back by then. So I've got 1, 2, 3 losses for them before they hit their bye week.
The rest of the schedule does get hard for them.
So I got them at 7-3 going into their bye. Then you got Houston. That's a win. 8-3. San Francisco, at LA, at Buffalo. There's 3 straight losses. So now all of a sudden they are 7-6. And it's the same old Miami Dolphins, isn't it, as we get to December. Are they or aren't they? It's in reverse. Green Bay, loss. At New England, win. Jets, a win. 10 wins.
Yep.
It's a 10-win team.
Yep.
Should be a 10-win team.
It should.
But will it be enough to make the playoffs? I don't know. We'll find out.
Yep.
All right, my friend. Your next team in the AFC East, the New England Patriots.
Yeah, this team is one of the ones on paper that it's hard for me to put my finger on. I have them at 7-10, so I'll fall off from their last year record of 10-7. It's just hard to put a book on this team. They've been very straight middle of the pack. I believe they made the playoffs last year, but it's just they just don't stand out in any category to me personally. They just seem to be middle of the pack and everything, which besides defense, their defense is solid, but besides that, just with AFC getting deeper, 7-10 just seems to be where I have them falling. Their schedule doesn't help them out, give them any leeway, and at the end of the day, it's not going to be a fun season for the Patriots, and I just think they got to find a big breakout area that they really stand out and make a difference for them, because right now they're falling into mediocrity fast.
They're not falling, and they're in it. Yeah. I'm a Mac Jones fan, though. I like Mac Jones. But Look, and Kendrick Bourne, what a great pickup he was last year. Every time you looked at a highlight for the New England Patriots last year, seemingly it was Kendrick Bourne that was making the big catch. They turn you over. They still play good defense. You know, Bill Belichick last year defensively in the National Football League, they had the fourth best defense in the league last year. I thought their offseason, for lack of a better term, was terrible. Terrible. I don't even know what they were doing this offseason. They bring home Malcolm Butler for some reason. They get Terrence Mitchell out of Houston, Ty Montgomery, a athlete, running back, wide receiver, a hybrid out of New Orleans. I do like the pickup of Devontae Parker because I think it gives Mac Jones another weapon. I like Devontae Parker. Jabril Peppers, draft bust. But Peppers is going to boost up an already pretty solid secondary, in my opinion. They were second in the NFL last year in interceptions. And you get Mac Wilson, senior, out of Cleveland. I don't know. You know, it's a 9-8 team. That's what they feel like to me. A 9-8 team. Offensively, last year they were 15th in the National Football League, 8th running the ball, 14th passing it, 6th scoring offense. You know, I just, you know, we're talking about Kendrick Bourne. He was third in the NFL last year with 2.7 yards after the catch. This guy's a playmaker. And then now you add Devontae Parker, so you kind of got to guard him, honestly. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. The Patriots draft didn't thrill me. Tyquan Thornton, Marcus Jones, Jack Jones, Pierce Strong, okay players, but you know, I do know the big story for me for the New England Patriots this year is Trey Nixon, the former Bear Hawk, going to make the team. I hope so. I think he deserves to make the team. I know he's working hard. So the Jets, what say you about the New York Jets?
The Jets are just, I don't know. It's the Jets. I have them going 4-13. Not great, but that's literally the best I could put them. I'm trying.
At least they didn't fire their coach.
Yeah, I'm trying to give this team a chance because they're making improvements. It's just there's just not a foundation yet. There's not something that they're really building off of. Zach Wilson still to me wasn't the pick then. And, you know, I think it could have been Justin Fields, Mac Jones if you stretch. I don't see how this team – I see people, they're sneaky playoff hunt team. No, they're not. That's – like, it's not there yet. And it's just been this Jets spiral that they just can't dissect the problem and make it better. Because I haven't seen any improvement in this team in as long as I've watched the NFL.
I'm going to disagree with you. Although I feel like the Jets are going to sit in the bottom of the AFC East. I love their draft. Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Jermaine Johnson. There's not a pick from Sauce Gardner, Jeremy Ruckert, Max Mitchell, Michael Clemens, all the way down the line that I don't like. I loved their draft this year. I mean, I really did. They had good tight end out of Minnesota in Ty Conklin. You know, obviously last year they had some issues. You look at their numbers defensively. You know, they get rid of Marcus May. They were 32nd. They were the worst defense in the National Football League last year. But, again, address that in the draft with the additions of guys like Gardner and Jermaine Johnson. So, I have the Jets slightly better. I have them at 6-11. 6-11, 7-10. I can see that. And, look, I know a lot of what's going to happen for this football team is going to depend on Zach Wilson. No, the roster isn't great, but it's getting better. And I really like the way that Wilson asserted himself in some tough situations last year. I thought he showed a lot of toughness. I thought he showed a lot of moxie. I like him. I think he's got a chance to succeed here. And I like the fact that they go get a guy like a Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State. Excuse me. You know, 3 first-round picks, and I thought they hit home runs on all of them. So, I just will say that I do think the Jets are bottom feeders in this division, but I don't think that they're your typical guaranteed top 2-3 pick anymore. That to me strictly belongs to the Houston Texans. So that's what I'll say about the Jets. I'm excited to watch them play this year. Again, not a playoff team, but not a 2-3 win team either. So any final thoughts on the AFC East, my friend?
Yeah, just adding on, I guess I do agree the Jets draft was good. It's just mostly the schedule there. But yeah, I think overall the order set, Bills, Dolphins, Patriots, Jets, and however many wins can fluctuate, but I think overall the infrastructure is there for those four, and for now that's how it'll stand for a little while till these teams shift a little bit.
You have a surprise? I mean, if you could, to me, I just don't see a surprise in this division. I don't.
No.
Again, Tua Tagovailoa's got to. This is his final year in Miami. If he's coming back, then the Miami Dolphins made the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's how you know that. But I don't know. We'll see. I don't think there's a surprise team. It's all Buffalo to me.
Yeah.
Buffalo 11-6 last year. I got them at 12-5. I'll modify that a little bit to 13-4. Again, if they are as good as I believe they're going to be, and I know that Bills Mafia is all over this, they could be 15-2. They could be 15-2. So, all right, baseball, I guess now, huh? Yeah. On to baseball, and the month of June is over, and so mainly by this point, teams have played half their games. I think, I looked today, I think there was a team even with 86 games in the fold, if I did my math right. There's a good chance I didn't. But your thoughts on what you've seen so far?
It's been an interesting season. There are standout teams. There are disappointing teams. I mean, that's how baseball tends to be.
Who is the most surprising team to you, if you have one?
I mean, I have a surprising in a bad way.
Okay, go ahead.
Which would be the Angels.
Yeah.
Which tends to be how they fall short. But I was thinking, you have Ohtani, one incredible year under his belt. You have Mike Trout still being Mike Trout, and they still just disappoint. So the Angels are the most surprising to me that they just continue to disappoint. But the good teams don't shock me too much. The teams you see at the top, they don't really strike me as stand out. Like, I never would have seen that coming. But most of them have been up there for a while, and I guess the two New York teams really jumping out have made a little bit of a difference.
God, please, no Subway World Series. Please, no Subway World Series. Please, if there's a baseball god, no Subway. I'll even take the Red Sox somehow as a wild card in there. Please, no Subway World Series. And that's hard for me to say because I hate the Red Sox and the Yankees equally. I don't have one favorite team I hate above and beyond other. All right, in the American League right now. Oh, you know what? Let's do this because I want to make sure. This is BSN's This Week in Baseball. There's the standings. They're going to pop up on your screen there with the background music. The Yankees, of course, lead the East 58-23 and doing what the New York Yankees have done all year, and that's hit the baseball all over the ballpark. A 159-run differential. Down in the AL Central, it's the Minnesota Twins who've opened up a 4.5-game lead over the Cleveland Guardians. Can you still get used to saying the Cleveland Guardians? And then over in the West, it is all the Houston Astros at 53-27. They are 13.5 better than Seattle, 13.5 better than Texas, 17 better than the Angels. Over in the National League in the East, it's the Mets at 50-31, leading the AL East. The Braves trail them by just 2.5 games. Go Braves, go! And in the Central, the Milwaukee Brewers 47-36, a 3-game lead over the Cardinals. But if you know how that division goes, it'll probably end up St. Louis. In the West, it's the Dodgers who have opened up a pretty good lead, a 5.5-game lead over the Padres. And the Giants have fallen to the wayside here at 10.5 back. Padres hanging on by the hair of their chinny chin chins here. The Dodgers are on the move here, no doubt about it. So that is this week in baseball. And we have another treat because June on your screen playing right now is as Jackson and I debate who is the American League and the National League MVP to this point. You're going to be looking at the June Major League Baseball plays of the month, the top 5, the Elite 8 plays of the month. And what you'll see in there is there's Perez from the Pirates. 2 different Pirates hit 3 home runs in a game. You had a Colorado Rocky hit, and just 3 different players with 3 home runs in a game in the month of June. You had Florida Marlins pitchers doing something pretty incredible in back-to-back innings through 9-pitch innings, which I don't think anybody's ever found out if that was a first in Major League Baseball history. There's a great catch there, a little tip of the hat. But who's your AL MVP?
Gotta ride the odds favorite. Aaron Judge stays up top, and I think he's in a solid standing. You have Ohtani and Mike Trout behind him, but I don't know if Ohtani can get back-to-back MVPs. And most times MVP has not to do with the team performance, but as long as the Angels are going to disappoint, it's not going to help either of those 2 players. Whereas the Yankees can rise up to the top where they are, that is definitely going to help show off how good Aaron Judge's season has been. So beyond either of that, or beyond the teams, I still think Aaron Judge is the AL MVP.
You know, at the end of the day, you look at stats. We all look at stats. Yordan Alvarez, 313, 413 OBP, 663 slugging, right? 25 home runs, 58 RBIs. Aaron Judge. To me, Aaron Judge is just a home run hitter. That's all he is. But he's hit enough of them to give the Yankees a 13-game lead over the Red Sox. So Shohei Ohtani, Rafael Devers, and Jose Ramirez at the moment. I want to give it to Ohtani. But the Angels are too far out of this. I'm going to, Alvarez or Judge for me. Jordan Alvarez or Judge for me is where I'll – how about in the National League?
In the National League, it's a lot tighter. I think you got to look at it. I still think right now, I guess I'll ride the odds again, but Paul Goldschmidt,
yeah,
I
I'm
think
with you
his
there.
Season's been – good enough, but it's a lot tighter over there. I mean, you have Pete Alonso, Manny Machado, Mookie Betts going down however far
Mookie Betts, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No.
But if the Cardinals come back and win this division like I think they will, and Goldschmidt continues to do what he's done, the Cardinals will take over that division because a big reason for that is Goldschmidt. And he runs away with the MVP. But you're right about the other names you mentioned. Pete Alonso, Manny Machado, those guys. All great WAR numbers. Wins above replacement. You look, Goldschmidt's batting 347, Machado 328. So yeah, I'm with you. I think it's Goldschmidt.
I love seeing Pete Alonso's name up there. He was always a player that, you always see him in the home run derby showing out there, but he was always a player that I just liked. I think he had good potential. Now seeing him up there, I don't think he'll get the MVP this year, but good on Pete Alonso and the Mets for picking it up this year.
I didn't ask you to do this, so I'll do this. I forgot to add this to it, but right now I think it's a 3-horse race for the Cy Young, and this pains me to say, but Kevin Gausman of the Toronto Blue Jays, former Oriole, first-round draft pick that we gave up on after Tommy John surgery, and Justin Verlander, if he continues to go at the rate he's going, he'll win it just because of the sympathy vote there, and I want to thank Dingers for sponsoring the Elite 8 June plays of the month in Major League Baseball. Of course, Shohei Ohtani, that 13 strikeout performance and 8 RBI performance in back-to-back days, the number 1 overall performance in the month of June, of course. But for me, Verlander gets the nod if he continues to pitch the way he's pitching. And it's not close in the National League. It's Pablo Lopez of the Miami Marlins. Sick ERA. 1.05. I mean, the guy is absolutely incredible. Love watching him pitch. And I just wonder before how long it is before the Miami Marlins give all these young pitchers away again and make the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Dodgers better going down the stretch. But the trade deadline's coming up, so we'll have plenty of time to discuss that. Anything else you want to add in Major League Baseball?
The only thing I could say is Yankees might have to watch out for the Astros. That's about it.
You
Astros,
you got a power ranking this week? It's okay if you don't.
I don't.
I didn't ask for one, so if you don't have one, no big deal.
No, I do not.
I think the Yankees are still the number one team, followed by, you look over in the National League. The Astros would lead every division in the National League. So I'll go Yankees 1. I'll go Astros 2. I'm going to go Dodgers 3. I'll go Mets 4. And I think I'll throw a curveball in this. Give me the Braves 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
48-34. Milwaukee leads division at 47-36. Minnesota's 47-37. But give me the Braves at 48-34.
Yeah, I think either of the Central leaders don't really crack that top 5. Yeah, but the Astros have last 10. They're 9-1, so they're riding
right there.
Street.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, my friend, we're getting ready to set it up here, wrap it up. Let's bring back in Caleb, who's gonna jump back in here, and because it's time for a new segment here on Brevard Sports Network. We gave you the stat of the week, and once again, that's brought to you by Best Private Investigations, and that revolved around the Cleveland Browns and their quarterback carousel. But we got a new segment called the BSN Fool of the Week. I'll get music to this eventually, but you have a Fool of the Week, don't you, Mr. Jackson?
Yes, I do, and this one might not be as, I guess, in the limelight, but it is definitely a big one in the world of NASCAR and the Xfinity Series, which is like the second level series to the top. Junior motorsports driver Noah Gragson.
Junior. That's who?
Dale Earnhardt
There
Jr.
you go, for those that don't know.
Noah Gragson. So, racing on a road course.
They're seeing it on the screen.
Got it. Tries to take out a driver that he thought was racing him wrongly. While instead of, and a saying in NASCAR is you got to know how to wreck someone without wrecking yourself, let alone wrecking half the field and injuring a driver. So that's all bad enough. You can't wreck someone, then you end up wrecking half the field and all that on a road course, let alone. After the race, try and defend your actions. That's not great. But then it comes out today. He gets fined $35,000, loses 30 driver points.
They make that much money?
He loses that much money. And I think the funniest thing for me is his car owner and, the guy that he's been his
Junior.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. comes out on his podcast or whatever and was very disgusted. He came out and pretty much put his own driver on blast for the move. So overall, definitely the biggest fool of the week for me being Noah Gragson. Just taking out half the field, getting fined, and having your main man, the boss, calling you out live.
All right, Noah Gragson, the fool of the week for and there he is on the screen right now. People are looking at him. He's a fool of the week for that mullet. No, I'm kidding. I had a mullet when I was his age. I don't know how. What is he, 18, 19 years old?
Some of that.
He's a young guy. It's a funny story. I was not feeling well this past weekend, and I had some issues with cramping up and things of that nature. And I actually watched this entire race, and you saw the driver that was hurt there on the track, and the driver's okay, and he'll return to race this week. And they interviewed the poor guy after the race, and they said, "Are you okay? What happened? You looked to be in a lot of pain down there." And he says, "Well, I was." He said, "The way the accident worked out for me was I ended up taking a shot to an area that men don't particularly want to be hit in." And so if I were him, I probably would have sat there for 15 minutes and not wanted to be touched either. Mr. Caleb Brown, who is your fool of the week?
It's going to sound like an obvious one, but the Cleveland Browns organization, as I mentioned earlier, the Browns just doing Brown things, giving away Baker Mayfield this early in free agency. I honestly feel like I would have kept him around, waited till someone may possibly, I hope it doesn't happen, but gets hurt in training camp or beginning of the season. Then you can get maybe more trade value for him than just a conditional 5th-round pick. Come on, really? And especially you're going through your current quarterback situation where the quarterback you just signed possibly could be suspended for another year and a half. Come on, Cleveland. Why do you got to keep doing Browns things?
Yeah, I am not going to disagree with you. In fact, I'm going to agree with you. I've got 2 fools of the week, and one is very similar to you. And my fools of the week are Jimmy Haslam Jr., the owner of the Cleveland Browns, and Kevin Durant. Look, I love the memes. I got to be honest with you. I saw a meme today that said Kevin Durant has now considered the 1927 Yankees as one of the teams he wants to go play for. I just think it's terrific.
The 85 Bears, I saw one.
Yeah, the 1985 Bears, right? So, look, I get why he wants this trade. He doesn't want to play with Kyrie Irving. I think that's really what it comes down to. But you want out from an organization that paid you, traded for you, signed you, or I don't know, signed him, I should say. Paid you to sit for an entire year in rehab. They could have waited. Where's any loyalty back? Now, I know I'm just grabbing at stars that don't exist. But Kevin Durant, you are absolutely my fool of the week. And I want to say this. I want to prop up the San Jose Sharks, who this week did something, and I cannot find his picture. I will find it because I thought it was fantastic what happened finally in the world of the National Hockey League. The San Jose Sharks this week announced their new general manager as Mike Grier. Now, if the last name Grier sounds familiar, it should. His brother is the general manager of the Miami Dolphins. Okay? Mike Grier is the first black general manager in National Hockey League history. So let's give it up for the San Jose Sharks. And absolutely fantastic hire. And you know what? I like now I can't remember his brother's first name, but I love him as the Dolphins GM. I think he's done some fantastic moves.
Chris
Grier, right. Grier replaces GM Mike Will, who took over for Doug Wilson. The Detroit-born but Massachusetts-raised Grier has held various non-playing positions since retiring. Played in the Hockey League. He spent 2 seasons behind the bench as an assistant with the New Jersey Devils. A year ago, he was hired as an advisor to hockey operations for the Rangers. He has also served as a scout for the Chicago Blackhawks between 2014 and 2018. And, I might add, the Blackhawks during that particular time frame won two Stanley Cups. So, congratulations to Mr. Grier and the San Jose Sharks. Gentlemen, final thoughts.
Let's get going. I mean, we got state play locally. We got state play in the little league circuit. We'll have updates as we get them here on the Brevard Sports Network. I'm excited for the future of softball and baseball here in Brevard County, and I'm so blessed that we get to cover it right here on the Brevard Sports Network.
Jackson, you're off on another excursion to Illinois for a month. These are really your final thoughts. What are they?
Sports aren't done yet. Might be the summer, might be that summer stretch, but sports world stays buzzing.
No doubt, guys. Another great job by the both of you tonight. Of course, my final thought for the night tonight is let's get going on some football, right? As Caleb said, coming up is going to be the coaches' shows, and we're very excited about that. I know there's a media day in the planning, so lots going on. It may be July, but that doesn't mean sports is dead. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for your support. And these 2 guys over here do a terrific job. Love these guys, Caleb and Jackson, for sure. Listen, have a great night. as I always say, make it a sports night. And I'll end with this as well. Let's be nice to each other out there, huh? Have a great night, everybody.